I invite you to just let go of everything that's been happening in your world up until this moment. Be fully present in this now moment. It's your time to be fully present within your body, and allow that beautiful body of yours to relax. If you're sitting in a chair, relax further into the chair. If you're lying down, relax further into that position. And I invite you to close your eyes as you relax further still, and imagine or sense that what you are sitting or lying in is so soft and fluffy and yet firm that it supports you. And as this firm, soft, fluffy support wraps around you, you realize that you have come onto a white, fluffy cloud. And so there's nothing to do now, because this cloud is going to gently lift you up as you are supported in a very firm, loving, gentle way. And the white, fluffy cloud is now travelling up, gently gliding over the landscape and bringing you up over and on top of the mountains. And from this position, you are above everything. Any issues, any problems you have, you are floating above all of it. And in this posture, in this space where we are above it all, we welcome the beautiful, loving messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the second of 4 messages, lessons, if you wish. Talk about how old souls on this planet deal with everyday life. Dealing with that which is in 3D, 4D. These are not lessons that talk about that which you have as gifts from your soul or metaphysical powers or gifts of any kind. This is about wisdom. How do you, as an old soul, with an awakening of an energy that knows things, that knows a wisdom perhaps which is higher than you had even a few years ago, an awareness of how things work. How do you then deal with a planet that is almost exactly as it was 100 years ago? The planet is starting to awaken. That is to say, things like integrity, the things that are in fairness, all of these kinds of transparency instead of deceit, all of these things are starting to shift. But the old soul has a grander shift going on. An old soul can see and feel immediately whether energy is appropriate or not. Things that you perhaps used to do or hear or participate now seeming to metaphorically slap you in the face because of their negativity or their inappropriateness in your life. That's what we speak of. Awakening is that which you are more sensitive, perhaps, even to the interactions around you of human beings or situations. And here you are awakening to a grander truth, understanding the divinity, seeing the light. Here you are becoming a more peaceful person. Here you are with understanding and knowledge about how to heal yourselves or a process of healing. or how to position yourselves for benevolent thinking or affirmation thinking, where you start to think that which you are and wish to be and control your life. All of that, so elevated compared to those you're around. Last week, we talked about what do you do about that? And there are those who would say, well, obviously we run away and hide. And there would be those who have and those who do. It's pretty tough when you've got to go home and face the family and you go to work and you have colleagues and all that is. That sometimes it's not doable. And then we told you, don't do it. Because sequestering yourself with your wisdom and your life, sequestering yourself from the others, doesn't help one person on the planet. So again, we revisit the primary goal of a light worker. Why are you here? Among other things, it's to reflect the majesty of the creative source. Reflecting the face of God. That's one of the main reasons you are here. I have just answered a question. It is yet to be presented on the show. Question is, why are we here? And everyone wants a linear answer. Well, you're here to build healing centers, or you're here to do this or do that. Instead of a thing, what about a concept? You're here to shine light through everyday living, of how you deal with what everyone around you must also deal with. How do you do it in a way that's different? There are really two aspects to this. How do you do it so that you can have peace yourself, so you're not pretending? The other aspect is, how do you do it so others can see it without offending them or pointing your finger at them or saying things you shouldn't say to keep them as friends? That has wisdom attached to it. Saying things properly, so not appearing to be better than anyone else, but appearing to have perhaps discovered something beautiful for yourself. This is always the answer we'll give. Instead of going to others and being evangelistic and saying, well, you ought to do what I do, and here's something you should know, and do this or else, and the things that you're used to hearing in spiritual systems that want to show you something better than you are. But you're not going to do that. It's almost de facto. It's almost that which is anyway. And that is to say, when they look at you, they're going to see balance and peace and joy. We said this last time, when you're in a circle of those who are gossiping and complaining and negative, and you say very little, and they turn to you and say, well, you're not saying anything, and you can say, I just love being with you, and you're my good friends, and I love you very much, and I've just found something beautiful for myself. And then you don't even have to say any more, and they may ask you what it is. Then you get a chance to say what you think. So it's not an evangelistic approach at all. Or is it? Dear ones, I'll tell you something. Humanity is attracted more and more to light. More and more. There are those who say, if I could just get off the merry-go-round, as they say, or the rat race, which they say, of life. And that's how they see it. They go around every single day. They do certain things every single day. And then when they get together, they complain about it. And that becomes life. You've gotten off the merry-go-round. And so here you are as a light worker, an old soul who has an awakening going on, is starting to realize that you can create and co-create peace in your life. This one's about family, the hardest one that we're going to give you. This is the most difficult. And the difficulty is this. You're dealing with two aspects that are not present in everyday life when you simply walk around with people. Two aspects. Number one, blood family. That will be the relations you have. Blood family. They all have something in common with you. When you reincarnated, and some of you reincarnated into this family, there were no accidents. Your mom and your dad, at some level, knew on the other side of the veil you were coming. Or you agreed with them on the other side of the veil, yes, I'll come in. And some of you will say, no, that you've gone too far, Kryon. I'm not going to go there with you because I was an abused child. I would never have said I'm going to come in to be abused. Yes, you did. The reason? Because you were an old soul and they were not. They were just beginning perhaps, and you have come in to help them. Does this make sense to you? You eventually are their teacher by how you now react. Some will say, well, they're gone, and so it makes no difference. Oh, yes, it does. It's how you react to what happened to you from them to others. How do others see your reaction as an abused child? Do you understand this? What wisdom can you then push forward so others can say, wow, I have never heard anyone say those kinds of things who went through that. These are the kinds of things we talk about. Family is the hardest. The second part of family would be the ones you choose. You choose to be with them, to partner with them, to marry them or not, but to be with them. That's the second. There are no accidents of who you meet and who you're with. There are none. You may say, well, yes, I've had a couple of accidents already. And the answer to this is you went through phases of life for them and for you. You both learned things from certain kinds of relationships. It's tough to go home in the holidays for some of you, very tough, because you hold within you something that's so different than they've ever seen before that many of them actually make fun of you. What's your reaction to that? Do you sulk? Do you go off into the corner? When they call you names at all, do you cry a little? Or do you let it bounce off of you in a way that you know is correct? Names are just names. You are looking at their dysfunction. Anytime a family member turns to you, makes fun of you, you can see it like they're still in black and white, you're in color. So what do? You don't admonish them. You don't tell them they're fools. Instead, you hold that color to yourself and show it to them by being peaceful with it, by smiling. There is such a thing that is called karma. You've dropped yours, others have not. Perhaps they are there to be the sand in your oyster, as they say, or to poke you a little. Did you notice something? That if you're not pokeable, if you do not react to a family who is pushing your buttons, if you don't react to them, they stopped pushing. Did you notice that? You're no fun anymore. And then they start wondering, at some level, why? My partner has experienced this. When he'll go to a place where there is fun being poked at him for what he believes, and everyone will laugh and all, and then later one will come around and say, we're sorry we did that, I'm sorry I did that, and I want to know something, Lee. And you say, what is it? He says, how do you do it? How do you stay peaceful and be joyful, and we know you're not pretending through all of these things? We see you're different. Bingo. Have you seen what you've done? Light shows itself. When you have relationships that are souring or have gone bad, there's a temptation to say, I failed. To some of you, you'll say, I failed again. Some of you have blamed yourself over and over and said, well, I really can't hold on to a relation because there's something wrong with me. Introspection is excellent, but I'm going to tell you, old soul, more than not, what has happened is you have levels of awakening. And what was fine in 1 year becomes less fine in another. It's almost like you're climbing a ladder of awareness, and perhaps your partner is not. And there comes a time when when things which were acceptable before are not. So rather than having failed, dear ones, You've simply grown a little. How do you treat the one that you've left? That is the secret. No matter what they say, how do you treat them? Do you treat them friendly, with respect, no matter what? If they call you names for what they think you've done to them, by leaving them, for instance, or vice versa, can you hold on to the benevolence of what might have happened in a way that is wiser than anything they've seen before? Those around you will see this, and at some level, they will see this. This is you reflecting the face of God with family while you're on the earth. I just gave you a very profound message. I'd love to have you listen again to it, because it answers some of the questions that are so difficult. What do I do? Finally, I'll say this. If you're in a relationship, dear ones, and this is the question so many have asked, and it's untenable, what do you do? And the answer is, indeed, there'll come a time when you may have to leave. And that is controversial, because there are those who say, when you have a relationship and you've made the promises and all, you must stick it out. And the answer is, if you stick it out, in some cases, you make both miserable. There, I've said it. That's an answer to another question, which has not yet been put in the portal. Dear ones, you're here to reflect the face of God. You're here to hold the wisdom of the Creator. And so it is.